Which one is from NBC? Oh, that's for canceling My Name is Earl!
Hollywood doesn't always give us a happy ending. In fact, sometimes it doesn't give us an ending at all. We've dug up the 20 most shocking examples of sitcoms and dramas that were cut short without any closure. Believe it or not, one of these shows ended with a main character discovering that his entire life might have been a lie. 1. Pushing Daisies.
For the pie maker and a dead girl named Chuck, their shared life event began with a touch and became the promise of a new family brought about by the words,
"I'm alive."
Imagine you had a magical power. With just one touch, you could bring anything that has passed away back to life. A dead flower, a rotten fruit, even a person. That's the amazing gift that Ned the Pie Maker has in the show Pushing Daisies. But his gift has two very big rules. First, if he touches the person a second time, they're gone for good. Second, if he keeps them alive for more than 1 minute, someone else nearby has to pass away instead. It's a pretty tricky situation. The whole story revolves around Ned and his childhood sweetheart, a girl named Chuck. Chuck passed away, and Ned, using his power, brought her back to life. Now they're deeply in love, but they can never, ever touch. No holding hands, no hugs, nothing. It's a sweet and heartbreaking romance. They solve mysteries together using his power to talk to victims for just under a minute. The show was beautiful, quirky, and full of color and witty dialogue. But after just 2 seasons, the show was canceled. The final episode left us with so many unanswered questions. The biggest one involved Chuck's father, who was thought to be gone, but was revealed to be alive. We never got to see that reunion. And of course, the biggest question of all remained. Would Ned and Chuck ever find a way to be together, to finally touch? The show ended before we ever got our answer, leaving their unique love story frozen in time. It's tough when a romance is left unresolved, but what about a show that was all about the awkward and confusing journey of just growing up, a journey that got cut way too short? 2. Freaks and Geeks.
George Bush is coming to speak to the school.
The porn star? The Vice President of the United States of America?
Ooh.
George Bush.
Let's travel back to the year 1980. High school was a world of jocks, nerds, and everyone in between. The show Freaks and Geeks perfectly captured that feeling. It was about a smart girl named Lindsay Weir who was tired of being a perfect student, a mathlete. So she starts hanging out with a group of freaks. These were the kids who wore army jackets, listened to rock music, and cut class to hang out under the bleachers. Her little brother Sam was part of the Geeks, a group of nerdy freshmen obsessed with Star Wars and Dungeons and Dragons. The show felt incredibly real. The characters talked like real teenagers, and their problems weren't crazy, over-the-top TV problems. They were about trying to fit in, dealing with first crushes, and figuring out who you want to be. The cast was filled with young actors who would later become huge stars, people like James Franco, Seth Rogen, and Jason Segel. The show was funny, smart, and had a ton of heart. Sadly, it was canceled after only 1 season. The final episode left the main character, Lindsay, at a huge crossroads. She was supposed to go to a fancy academic summer program, a path to a successful future. But at the last minute, she decides to skip it. Instead, she gets in a van with her freaky friends to follow the Grateful Dead on tour for the summer. The show ends with her driving away, a look of excitement and fear on her face. Did she ever come back? Did she regret her choice? We were left to wonder forever what happened to Lindsay Weir. An uncertain future is a tough way to end a show, but our next show ended with a mystery that changed everything we thought we knew about the main character. 3. My Name is Earl.
That's how I try and live my life. You do good things and good things happen to you. You do bad things and it'll come back to haunt you. It's karma.
This show had a simple but brilliant idea. Earl Hickey was a pretty bad guy. He did a lot of rotten things to a lot of people. Then, one day, he wins the lottery, but immediately gets hit by a car and loses the ticket. While in the hospital, he has an epiphany. He believes in karma now. So he makes a long list of every bad thing he's ever done. His mission is to find every person he's ever wronged and make it right. For 4 seasons, we watched Earl and his goofy brother Randy slowly but surely cross items off that list. He returned stolen goods, apologized to old enemies, and tried to be a better person. The show was hilarious, with a cast of quirky characters living in the fictional Camden County. Every episode was a new adventure in making amends. The show was all about second chances and the idea that it's never too late to change. Then, at the end of season 4, the show ended on the biggest cliffhanger possible. During a DNA test for another storyline, it was revealed that Earl might not be the biological father of one of his kids. And even more shocking, a different DNA test revealed that Earl's other kid might have a different father too. The final episode ended with a title card that said, "To be continued," but it never was. The show was abruptly canceled. Who were the real fathers? And what would that mean for Earl's journey? Fans never got the conclusion to Earl's quest for karma. Family secrets are one thing, but our next show left us with a huge family mystery that even its own spin-off couldn't solve. 4. Moesha.
I'm into more adult things now. Like what? Sipping on prune juice and watching CBS?
In the 90s, Moesha was a hugely popular sitcom starring the singer Brandy. It was about a teenage girl named Moesha Denise Mitchell living in a well-to-do neighborhood in Los Angeles. The show followed her life through high school and into college, dealing with family, friendships, and romance. It was known for tackling serious issues that other sitcoms of the time wouldn't touch, all while being funny and relatable. The show ran for 6 successful seasons. We saw Moesha grow up, argue with her dad, deal with her new stepmom, and navigate complicated relationships. The characters felt like a real family, and fans were deeply invested in their lives. By the final season, things had gotten very dramatic. There were breakups, new career paths, and a lot of tension within the family. Then came the series finale, which felt more like a season finale. It left viewers with 2 massive, unresolved cliffhangers. First, a positive pregnancy test is found in a trash can in Moesha's dorm room. The question is, whose is it? Moesha's? One of her friends? We never find out. As if that wasn't enough, in the final scene, we learn that Moesha's younger brother has been taken by a mysterious group. The show ends right there. It was a shocking ending that promised a dramatic next season. But that season never came. The show was canceled, leaving the fate of 2 main characters completely up in the air. A human mystery is frustrating, but what if the fate of a beloved alien character was left hanging in the balance by the government itself? 5. ALF.
Why are we moving out of a house we do like so you can keep a job you don't like?
I don't know.
Picture this. A furry, wisecracking alien from the planet Melmac crashes his spaceship into the garage of a quiet suburban family, the Tanners. That's the setup for the classic 80s sitcom, ALF. The alien's real name is Gordon Shumway, but the family calls him ALF, which stands for Alien Life Form. For 4 seasons, the Tanners had to hide this sarcastic, cat-eating alien from their nosy neighbors, and, more importantly, from the government's alien task force. ALF was a cultural phenomenon. He was on lunchboxes, t-shirts, everything. The show was a classic fish-out-of-water story. Most episodes were about ALF trying to understand human customs, breaking things, and generally causing chaos for the very patient Tanner family. While it was mostly a comedy, there was always the underlying threat that if he were ever discovered, it would be very bad for him. At the end of the 4th season, it seemed like Eyjolf was finally going to get his happy ending. He had successfully contacted some of his friends from Melmac, and they were coming to Earth to pick him up and take him home. In the final episode, Eyjolf goes to a field to meet their spaceship. He has a heartfelt, tearful goodbye with the Tanners. But just as the spaceship appears, the alien task force shows up. The spaceship has to leave without him. The final shot of the series is Eyjolf, surrounded by government agents. He's been captured. The screen fades to black with the words, "To be continued." But it wasn't. The show was canceled, and for millions of kids and adults, the last memory they have of Eyjolf is him being caught by the bad guys with no rescue in sight. Being captured is a dark ending. But what if a show ended with its heroes facing not just a few government agents, but an entire army from another dimension? 6. Angel.
So, are you still...
Yeah, there's not actually a cure for that.
Right.
This show was a spin-off of the mega-hit Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It followed Angel, a vampire cursed with a human soul. He feels guilt for all the terrible things he did when he was an evil vampire. To make up for his past, he moves to Los Angeles and starts a detective agency, helping the helpless and fighting the forces of darkness. The show was darker and more adult than Buffy, with complex characters and epic storylines. For 5 seasons, Angel and his team, known as Angel Investigations, fought demons, evil lawyers, and all sorts of supernatural threats. They made powerful enemies, and the main one was a demonic law firm called Wolfram and Hart. In the final season, Angel and his crew made a desperate deal to try and take down the firm from the inside. This, as you can imagine, did not go well. In the final episode, they decide to go out in a blaze of glory. They launch an all-out attack on the leaders of the evil group. In retaliation, Wolfram and Hart unleashes its entire army against them. The final scene takes place in a dark alley in the pouring rain. Angel and his surviving friends stand together, beaten and bruised, but ready to fight. They are facing down an army of thousands of demons, including a literal dragon. Angel turns to his friends and says, "Let's go to work." He swings his sword and they charge into battle. And then the screen cuts to black. The end. That's it. We never see who wins, who survives, or who falls. The show ended in the middle of the final battle. A final battle is one way to go out. But our next show didn't just end with a battle for a city. It ended with a battle for the entire planet. 7. The event.
He's going to tell them about the event.
The Event was a high-stakes sci-fi thriller with a massive conspiracy at its heart. The story starts with a regular guy named Sean Walker, whose girlfriend mysteriously disappears. As he tries to find her, he uncovers a huge government cover-up, one of the biggest secrets in human history. The secret is that a group of aliens crash-landed in Alaska decades ago. They look just like us, but they age much slower. For years, the U.S. government has kept them in a secret prison. The show was full of twists and turns. There were secret alien sleeper agents, political intrigue in the White House, and a constant sense of mystery. Some of the aliens wanted to live peacefully with humans, while a more radical group wanted to take over. The show was a race against time, as Sean Walker and the president tried to prevent a disaster. The first season built up to a massive cliffhanger that changed everything. The leader of the radical aliens succeeds in her plan. She sends a signal into deep space, but she wasn't calling for an invasion force. She was bringing their entire home planet through a wormhole to our solar system. In the final shot of the series, we see the alien planet appearing in the sky. It's massive, much bigger than our moon. Then the screen tells us the event has begun. But we never got to see what that event was. The show was canceled, leaving Earth on the brink of an unknown future. The fate of the world is a big deal. But sometimes the biggest cliffhangers are smaller and more personal, like a simple choice between two people. 8. My So-Called Life.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, keep going. I mean,
I was just leaving.
because of me? I'm not even supposed to be in here.
Me neither.
Before shows about teenage life got super glossy and dramatic, there was My So-Called Life. This show, which aired in the mid-90s, was praised for being one of the most realistic portrayals of being a teenager ever put on television. It starred a young Claire Danes as Angela Chase, a 15-year-old girl trying to figure out who she is. The show followed Angela as she navigated friendships, family drama, and most importantly, her first big crush. That crush was on the handsome, mysterious, and flannel-wearing Jordan Catalano, played by Jared Leto. Jordan was the cool guy who leaned against lockers and wasn't great with words. At the same time, Angela's nerdy childhood friend, Brian Krakow, was secretly in love with her. This created the ultimate 90s love triangle. The show only lasted for one season, but it made a huge impact. In the final episode, Jordan's band is playing a gig. He and Angela have been having problems, but he gives her a letter. Later, Angela finds out that the sweet, romantic letter wasn't actually written by Jordan. It was written for Hoti, for him by Brian Krakow, who finally confessed his true feelings. In the final scene, Angela confronts Brian. Then she sees Jordan waiting for her in his car. She gets in the car with him and they drive off, while Brian is left watching them. Always some go. Who did she really want to be with? Did she ever tell Jordan about the letter? The show was canceled, leaving Angela's romantic fate a total mystery. A teenage love triangle is classic drama. But our next show took workplace drama to a whole new level in a life-or-death situation. 9. Off the Map.
We met. You look familiar.
Manny Diaz, MD? Did I do your boobs?
Not every show with a cliffhanger is about aliens or vampires. Sometimes it's about real-life heroes. Off the Map was a medical drama about a group of young doctors who leave their comfortable lives in the United States to work at a remote, underfunded medical clinic deep in the South American jungle. It was produced by the same people who made Grey's Anatomy, so it had that perfect mix of high-stakes medical cases and complicated personal relationships. The doctors had to deal with tropical diseases, limited supplies, and emergencies that you would never see in a normal hospital. The setting itself was a character, beautiful but dangerous. The show was full of action, adventure, and of course, plenty of romance and drama between the doctors. They were a team of idealists trying to make a difference in a place that the rest of the world had forgotten. But the show only got one season. In the final episode, a terrible helicopter crash happens nearby. The team has to hike through the jungle to rescue the survivors. They find the pilot, who is badly injured, and a young local boy who is also in critical condition. The episode ends with the doctors fighting to save both of their lives, out in the middle of nowhere with a storm rolling in. We never found out if the pilot or the little boy survived. The show was canceled, leaving the fate of their final patients unresolved. A medical crisis is intense. But what about a crisis in the world of professional sports, where a single injury could end a lifelong dream? 10. Pitch.
I need to pitch. I've been working on this cutter. It's ready. If this is about what happened in LA...
It's not.
I want to pitch.
And I want abs like Bradley Cooper, but it's not happening.
This show had a groundbreaking premise. It told the story of Ginny Baker, a young woman who becomes the very first female pitcher in Major League Baseball. The show followed her as she joined the San Diego Padres and had to deal with the immense pressure of being a pioneer. She faced skeptical teammates, a media frenzy, and the challenge of proving she belonged. Pitch was more than just a sports show. It was a character drama about a strong woman trying to succeed in a man's world. We saw flashbacks to her tough training with her father, and we watched her form a close bond with the team's veteran catcher, Mike Lawson. The show was smart, inspiring, and had a ton of heart. It gave us a look at the behind-the-scenes world of professional baseball. The show was a critical hit, but it didn't find a big enough audience and was canceled after just one season. The finale ended on a devastating cliffhanger. During a big game, Ginny throws a pitch and feels a sharp pain in her arm. She falls to the ground in agony. The last thing we hear is an announcer saying that this could be a career-ending injury. After all her hard work, all her struggles, and all her triumphs, Ginny's dream was suddenly in jeopardy. Would she ever be able to pitch again? The show was cut short before we could find out if the first woman in baseball would get a second season. A sports cliffhanger is one thing, but our next show had a superhero-sized cliffhanger that came from out of nowhere. 11. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
If you really want me, I'm yours.
Clark? Have you lost your mind?
Oh my. Or have I lost mine?
Long before all the modern superhero movies, there was Lois and Clark. This show, which aired in the 90s, focused just as much on the romance between Lois Lane and Clark Kent as it did on Superman's adventures. It was a romantic comedy with superheroes. The chemistry between Dean Cain as Clark and Terry Hatcher as Lois was the heart and soul of the show. For 4 seasons, fans watched their relationship blossom from a workplace rivalry to a deep love. We saw them finally get married, which was a huge event. The show was full of fun, adventure, and classic Superman villains. It was a lighter, more optimistic take on the Man of Steel. In the final season, Lois and Clark learned that due to their different species, they couldn't have children together. It was a sad moment for the famous couple. Then came the season 4 finale, which turned out to be the series finale. In the final scene, Lois and Clark are in their apartment when they suddenly hear a noise. A mysterious bassinet appears in their living room out of thin air. Inside is a baby, wrapped in a Superman blanket. A note with the baby simply says that he belongs to them. Who was this baby? Where did he come from? Was he Kryptonian? The show's writers had a plan for a 5th season that would have explained it all. But the show was canceled, leaving the mystery of Superman's surprise son forever unsolved. A mysterious baby is a huge twist. But what about a group of underdogs whose entire future was left hanging just as they were about to achieve their biggest dream? 12. Glow.
Wrestling is about type. You're a sexy party girl. You're an Arab.
You mean stereotype?
Yes, bingo, exactly. You're a big black girl.
Let's head into the world of big hair, spandex, and body slams. Glow was a show set in the 1980s about a group of struggling actresses and misfits who find an unlikely path to stardom in the world of women's professional wrestling. The show was based on the real-life Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling League. It was a hilarious, heartfelt, and empowering story about friendship and finding your place in the world. The show centered on Ruth Wilder, an actress who creates the villainous wrestling persona Zoya the Destroyer. Her main rival in the ring is her former best friend, Debbie Egan, who plays the all-American hero, Liberty Bell. For 3 seasons, we watched these women learn how to wrestle, create their characters, and put on a wild and entertaining TV show. They became a messy, dysfunctional, but loving family. The 3rd season ended with a major shakeup. The women had been performing their show in Las Vegas, but things were starting to fall apart. In the final episode, Debbie, using her smart business sense, manages to buy a television network with her new rich boyfriend. She goes to Ruth and offers her a new job, not just as a wrestler, but as a director for their brand new wrestling league on their own network. It was the ultimate dream come true. But Ruth, in a surprising moment of self-doubt, turns her down. The season ends with the group fractured and their future uncertain. A fourth and final season was planned to wrap everything up, but it was canceled, leaving the gorgeous ladies of wrestling without their final bell. An uncertain future in television is tough, but our next show left its hero in an uncertain future in a much more literal way. 13. Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
I know a lot of people, kid. Tell me about you. Anybody heard the name John Connor?
Taking place after the events of the movie Terminator 2, this show followed Sarah Connor and her teenage son, John Connor, the future leader of the human resistance against the evil machines of Skynet. They are on the run, trying to destroy Skynet before it can ever be created, all while being hunted by killer robots from the future. They are joined by a good Terminator named Cameron, who acts as John's protector. The show was a smart and action-packed sci-fi series that expanded the Terminator universe. It explored complex ideas about fate, technology, and what it means to be human. For 2 seasons, the Connors fought a desperate battle across time, trying to prevent a future war that seemed inevitable. The show was full of suspense and shocking twists. The Season 2 finale was the biggest twist of all. In a last-ditch effort to stop their enemies, John Connor uses a time machine to jump into the future. But when he arrives, he finds a future where no one has ever heard of him. The legendary John Connor, the savior of humanity, doesn't exist in this timeline. He is a total stranger. The show ends there, with John stranded in a future he doesn't recognize, his entire destiny erased. It was a mind-bending cliffhanger that set up a completely new direction for the story. But the show was canceled, and we never found out how John Connor would survive in a future that had forgotten him. Being lost in time is a scary thought. But what if you were lost in the vast emptiness of space, with your life depending on a single desperate gamble? Teen. Stargate Universe.
What the hell are we? Several billion light years from home.
This show was a darker and more character-driven entry in the popular Stargate franchise. It was about a group of soldiers, scientists, and civilians who, during an attack on their base, are forced to evacuate through a Stargate to an unknown destination. They end up on an ancient, unmanned spaceship called the Destiny, billions of light years from Earth. They can't go back. Their new mission is just to survive. The show was like a survival story in space. The crew had to deal with dwindling supplies, internal conflicts, and the mysteries of the ancient ship they were on. They were a group of flawed people, far from home, just trying to make it to the next day. It was a more realistic and gritty take on space exploration, focusing on the human drama of the situation. At the end of the second season, the crew faces a huge problem. The ship's life support is failing, and the only way to survive a long journey to the next galaxy is to use stasis pods, basically a long-term sleep. The problem is they are short one working pod. Everyone goes into their pods for a journey that will last years. The young genius, Eli Wallace, volunteers to stay awake. He believes he can fix the final pod, but he only has 2 weeks before the ship's power runs out completely. The final shot of the series is of Eli, all alone on the bridge of this massive ship, looking out at the stars, his fate completely unknown. Did he fix the pod? Did he survive? The cancellation of the show left him and the audience adrift in deep space forever. Being lost in space is one thing, but our next hero got lost in something even more confusing: the past. 15. Archive 81.
I'm Melody. Dan.
I just moved in.
Me too.
This show was a creepy, mind-bending mystery that blended horror with found footage storytelling. It followed an archivist named Dan Turner who is hired for a strange job. He has to restore a collection of damaged videotapes from the 1990s. The tapes were made by a young woman named Melody, who was investigating a strange apartment building. As Dan restores the tapes, he starts to feel a strange connection to Melody. He learns that she was uncovering a dangerous, supernatural secret inside the building. The show cleverly jumps between Dan in the present day and Melody's footage from the past. Dan becomes obsessed with finding out what happened to her. He realizes that the mystery she uncovered is not over, and he is now a part of it. The first season ended with a shocking, reality-warping twist. Dan manages to enter a magical, otherworldly dimension to rescue Melody, who has been trapped there for decades. He finds her, but as they are trying to escape, they are separated. Melody is thrown out into the present day, finally free. But Dan is thrown backward in time. In the final scene, he wakes up in a hospital bed. He looks at a TV and realizes he is in the year 1994. The show was canceled after this massive cliffhanger, leaving its two main characters swapped in time with no hope of reunion. A time swap is a crazy ending. But our next show ended with its main hero facing a hail of arrows and an uncertain destiny. 16. Cursed. This show was a fantasy series that offered a new take on the classic legend of King Arthur. But this time, the story was told from the perspective of a different character. Nimue, a young woman with a mysterious gift who is destined to become the powerful but tragic Lady of the Lake. The show was full of magic, sword fights, and political intrigue. We follow Nimue as she joins forces with a young mercenary named Arthur. They go on a quest to deliver an ancient, magical sword to the wizard Merlin. Along the way, Nimue becomes a symbol of hope and rebellion for her people, the Fae, who are being hunted by a group of religious fanatics called the Red Paladins. The show was an epic adventure about a young woman discovering her own power and destiny. The first season ended with a huge, dramatic battle. Nimue confronts the leader of the Red Paladins. In the middle of their fight, an enemy archer shoots Nimue multiple times. She falls from a high stone bridge down into the water below. The last time we see her, she is floating away, seemingly gone. Arthur and his friends are left devastated. Of course, since we know she is meant to become the Lady of the Lake, this probably wasn't her true end. But the show was canceled, so we never got to see her transformation or her rise to power. Her legendary story was cut short right at its most critical moment. An uncertain destiny is hard to swallow. But our next show left two entire species on the brink of total annihilation. 17. Star-Crossed.
I mean, could this day possibly get any more insane?
I think it just did.
Imagine a world where a spaceship full of aliens crashes on Earth. This show, Star-Crossed, explored what happens next. The aliens, known as Atrians, are eventually moved into a secured, walled-off sector. A decade after their arrival, a program is launched to integrate a handful of Atrian teenagers into a human high school to see if the two species can coexist. The story is a classic Romeo and Juliet romance, but with a sci-fi twist. It centers on Emery, a human girl, and Roman, one of the alien teenagers. They had a brief, kind encounter on the day the aliens first crashed, and they have been searching for each other ever since. Now they are finally reunited at school, but their relationship is complicated by prejudice and mistrust between humans and Atrians. The show was a mix of high school drama and sci-fi action. There were secret plots, political tensions, and a constant threat of conflict between the two groups. The first season built, first, up to a breaking point. A radical human group plans to use a special bomb to get rid of the Atrians for good. In the final moments of the finale, the bomb is about to be activated. Roman and Emery are helpless to stop it. The season ends with the countdown timer on the bomb ticking away, leaving the fate of the entire Atrian race hanging in the balance. The show's cancellation meant that bomb is metaphorically still ticking.